Joining me now are two people who are at the courthouse today, former federal prosecutor Harry Litman and MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Okay, a lot to get to today. Let's sort of start where I ended on Keith Davidson, who's sort of an important substantive witness. Tell us who Davidson is and what he was going through today.
Davidson is the lawyer for both Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, and so prosecutors were taking him through the negotiation of the settlement payments to both women, which, Chris, as you know, operated very differently. The first one, AMI handled. The second one, David Pecker already testified. He's told Dylan Howard, do not get involved in this. I do not want any affiliation with the porn star. It endangers our distribution deal with Walmart. And also, I am not a bank. Nonetheless, Dylan Howard did get involved, and he got involved by involving Keith Davidson, who had a prior relationship with Stormy Daniels' manager, Gina Rodriguez, herself described as sort of an infamous storyboker. This is the seamy underbelly of the world that David Pecker sort of took us through. This is a rung below.
Yes, this is this is the rung below. The Inquirer is like, that is too sketchy for us, the National Enquirer.
Correct.
You need to go run this as an off-book operation because, again, us, the National Enquirer, find this to be too dubious.
And I'm glad you used the word sketchy, because sketchy comes to mind when I think about Keith Davidson. He was not an easy witness for the prosecution, although an important one. And I think part of that is because he did not want to acknowledge his full complicity in either of these deals. He was shadowy, for example, about how he got involved in representing Stormy Daniels in the first place.
I mean, it's a weird gig.
And how the deal was resurrected after he told Michael Cohen in mid-October, after Cohen had failed to fund the settlement, I'm out, and by the way, I don't represent Stormy Daniels or Gina Rodriguez anymore. Nonetheless, Michael Cohen gets called back into action, and that whole deal gets papered in a matter of like 24 hours. We know that because of the banker.
What was your impression? I think both of you sort of were on the same page that Pecker was. He was an interesting witness and credible and sort of frank and not shadowy and not squirrely and sort of very upfront about what he does and what world he operates in. And for that reason was a fairly credible witness, I think, was the judgment. What did you think of Davidson today?
Yeah, look, I thought Davidson was also basically straight. And the most important is he really brought us to the precipice of Stormy Daniels and the huge crisis that it is. There was all these sort of bland text at every sort of step. And then when the Access Hollywood tape hits, you have him talking to Dylan Howard and say, he is so effed. And it's the end, wave the white flag. So in other words, he was very effective in reinforcing the notion that at this point, it's a nitroglycerin crisis that has to be dealt with.
When Planet Hollywood drops.
When Access Hollywood drops, yeah.
Access Hollywood, I always do that. It's so funny. I don't want to defame the wonderful restaurant chain.
Good business idea.
So the key sort of... Yeah. The key kind of narrative point that I took away, again, and I'm following this, I haven't read the transcript yet, I'm following these in the Slack channel, but that the idea that there was the McDougal deal, that it set off some alarms internally at AMI. Then there's the Stormy deal, and then the Stormy deal kind of sputters out, and Michael Cohen is being squirrely and not really coming up, and that's dead. And what resurrects it is the crisis of the Access Hollywood.
Well, yes and no, because crisis of Access Hollywood is what precipitates the initial deal negotiations. At some point, it falls apart.
Oh, it falls apart after. Okay.
Correct. In mid-October, after Access Hollywood already happens. But Dylan Howard and others decide it has to be dealt with because Stormy Daniels and Gina Rodriguez are sort of now separated from Keith Davidson, are going out and shopping her story.
Right. So you've got a real problem.
And that's the bigger point. There are hiccups in the road, but the urgency is always there. And that's the thing that's most important, because really, what is the defense going to say about that? It's all set up to try to really savage Michael Cohen, but he's out there paying $130,000 knowing that he can't even take someone to lunch without Trump's approval. What's the actual narrative that has him doing that isn't trying to put out this huge fire?
But I will say Keith Davidson was really impossible for the prosecution today because he would not say, at least in response to a question that Mershon would allow, that he understood that Trump was the ultimate pocketbook for the Stormy Daniels settlement. And prosecutors desperately wanted him to say that. And I think there were experienced lawyers in the room, Harry included, sort of looking at him being like, can you ask this question in a way the guy can answer? But he needed to lay the foundation for the fact that Keith Davidson had an understanding at all, that it wasn't just an assumption that Trump was going to pay it, but that it wasn't just Cohen freelancing either, and they didn't get that neatly and cleanly today. They might on Thursday.
There was a bunch of texts between the two that were displayed today. I think we might even have some courtroom sketches of this. And these are texts between the Inquirer, the AMI dude Dylan Howard, who's not Pecker, and Davidson.
Yep.
What is the substance of those exchanges?
I mean, I think the substance of those exchanges is mostly to show, A, these guys were in touch very, very, very frequently.
Yes, they're working this. They're working this deal.
And they both understand that both sides have an interest in coming to these agreements. First McDougal and then Stormy Daniels. Even though Davidson testified, he sort of wanted to rid himself of the whole thing. He found Cohen loathsome and detestable.
Right.
But ultimately, he kind of, just when he thinks he's out, he gets pulled back into doing this deal.
Two sides of the same seeming world.
Yeah, let's talk about, just quickly here, 90 seconds. I'm going to put on the clock for you to talk about the strangeness of the E. Jean Carroll deposition, court reporter, and the C-SPAN archives. What was that about?
Quite clearly what it was about is what you said, that they were being obstreperous and not stipulating. Everybody stipulates, so they were going through the sort of first-year law school requirements for a business records exception, et cetera. I thought the jury was going to be sort of, very bored and even irked. They actually seem to be paying attention to this as if it was...
Wait, but take me through that. I mean, okay. I read the monologue, so I understand the point. But, just hammer it home. You stipulate, you say, we all know, here's a campaign tape. It's in public record. Stipulate that it's accurate.
We know this is the real voice of Donald Trump as photographed by C-SPAN.
Right. It's not just that, that C-SPAN did it in the regular course of business by someone who had the duty to do it.
Point being that when you don't stipulate, when you have to establish a sort of chain of custody of this document and authenticate it with the person who can speak to authority of its authenticity.
That's it. You have to be able to show it is what it looks like.
Right. Okay. And then the banker. Who seems like he's basically like Michael Cohen is really rushing and desperate, and he doesn't know much about this deal, but is maybe sniffing around it not being great.
I think what he's saying to himself is Michael Cohen was always in a rush, and real estate transactions are often rushed.
Like this, yeah.
So even though there was something a little fuzzy about it, maybe in retrospect, and certainly once we knew about Stormy Daniels, while we were going through it, it didn't strike us as out of the ordinary because it was totally in keeping with how Michael Cohen behaved and totally in keeping with how our real estate clients behaved. And Michael Cohen represented to us on paper that he was establishing a real estate consultancy and paying a retainer to a lawyer.
All right.
But also,
hold that thought, because you're going to stay right here. I want to talk about that, the gag order ruling, how Trump is enjoying his time in the freezing courthouse 8 hours a day. That's all next. Stick around.